Terms such as going postal, everybody understands what that means these days, and unfortunately, events like that are far too commonplace. What law enforcement has recently done has drastically changed the approach to these active shooter incidents. We know that the purpose of the perpetrator's actions are to kill as many people as possible in the quickest time frame and then oftentimes kill themselves. FBI statistics clearly show that these incidents are typically carried out by one individual and they wrap up between 8 to 10 minutes, oftentimes with the perpetrator killing themselves or engaging with law enforcement in a firefight and dying oftentimes in a suicide by cop manner. I think active shooter situations should be looked at a bit more like a hazmat situation, where there are hot zones, warm zones, and cold zones. And again, things don't go from a hot zone to a cold zone in a heartbeat. What's less clear and less defined is the medical response. EMS, both fire-based, private-based, helicopter-based, hospital-based, often has and clearly does have the paramount rule of we're not entering an unsafe scene. And we support that. Active shooter incidents statistically wrap up within 8 to 10 minutes, with the perpetrator either killing themselves, flees the scene, or is contacted and eliminated by law enforcement. What we're pushing for is integrating EMS into a more forward-leaning, light and lean model where once that threat is eliminated, then law enforcement quickly establishes a protective element team, a force protection element, if you will, protecting EMS while they enter the scene into a warm zone, if you will, and then give the emergent triage and treatment and rapid extrication that's necessary to save lives. We know these people are literally bleeding to death while EMS is staged outside. Sometimes they want to go in, but they're not allowed to. Other times they don't want to go in and won't go in until they're given the all clear. What we're looking at here is using this law enforcement protective envelope as a way to get needed medical assets into a warm zone environment. Clearly, we're not going to put any EMS professionals in harm's way, and that's critical to understand. Lastly, there do need to be procedures and policies established. You don't want to be exchanging business cards the day of the event. You want to have these relationships and these memorandums of understanding and these policies and procedures well established ahead of time. Another important difference is that in these kinds of MCI situations, the standard EMS model for dealing with a regular ambulance call needs to be modified. The teams need to be light and lean, forward-leaning, their equipment focused on trauma, airway, bleeding, and rapid extrication, and clearly things like the cardiac monitor and drug box can be left behind. We want to get in there, stop the bleeding, stabilize the airway, get those people out, and get them to the critical care they need in a timely fashion. What we highlight in Urban Shield is the concept of getting EMS into the warm zone, using law enforcement as a protective envelope. We've done that successfully in Urban Shield, in the Bay Area, and we hope to expand that nationally, and here's how we do it. The bad guy, Vladimir, he had a lock case that got lost. He's gone psycho, he's in camouflage equipment, he's going to shoot everybody, he's not planning on surviving this. The teams will be getting ready, and then the trigger will be... So the SWAT team's gonna think, okay, active shooter, let's get in there. We wanted to make this so real. We have shell casings all over the place. We have a gunpowder smell generator. We made the little cubicles look like offices. We have family photos on the wall. We have really good actors. We have a Hollywood moulage company that makes the injuries. I mean, you'll see somebody and go, they have their brains hanging out. And so the point being is that the more realistic the scenario for everybody, the more serious they'll take it, the better the training, and the more that it'll impact them in doing the right thing. Statistically, active shooter incidents happen weekly across the United States. Eventually, it's going to occur in our jurisdiction. The question is, are we ready?